Welcome back to the Every.Thing.After podcast. If you found us, we hope you're enjoying it. I'm Rob, one of the hosts, and you'll meet my many co-hosts as well as our regular guests, all in good time. I've got to say, things have been a bit hectic in the Every.Thing.After studio. It's a lot of work to launch a podcast, and really a brand. Meanwhile, there are just so many things that we wanted to quickly react to have that knee-jerk reaction to, so to speak. So in this episode of the podcast, we're going to play a little catch-up with our friends on some knee-jerk worthy shows. First up, I got the dish from a dirty blender about the latest season of White Lotus with my wife, Christy, and one of our very good friends we made in college and in our first journalism jobs, Amy Baker. Truly one of my favorite people on the planet. Though, as you'll hear, if she got to pick two friends to White Lotus with, I wouldn't be one of them. Then again, maybe that's a good thing? Take a listen. Sawadee Ka, I think, is
Sawadee Ka.
Sawadee Ka. So, I presume with Amy that you've seen all three seasons then.
I have, but I hope there's no quiz because I'm not sure if I remember all the details. But yes, I have seen all three seasons.
So if you had to pick Hawaii, or Sicily, or Thailand to go to, those are the three locations of 3 seasons. Which would you pick?
I would pick Sicily. What about you?
Just don't go on a boat with like a bunch of like gay, like built, rich guys.
Yes.
Like.
Yeah, that's the best part, though.
yeah, that was pretty great. Yeah. Oh man, we missed Jennifer Connelly this season, though, didn't we?
Yes, for sure.
Yeah, she's amazing. Oh my god, she's amazing. Yeah, I don't know what I would pick. Probably Hawaii. I would probably go Hawaii. No, I don't know. I'm not a beach person. I probably would go Sicily too, just because the history
Sicily.
of it.
Yeah.
I think you're right. I think Sicily's a choice there. I don't know. I don't think I could handle like all the monkeys and stuff in Thailand
Right.
and like the critters and stuff, like all the stuff, like in, I don't know. I don't know if I could handle that, like the jungle stuff. I'm not built for jungle. I probably just Sicily though.
Yeah, that is a cool thing about the show, that the location kind of ends up being almost like a character in the show.
Yeah.
Like, because I wonder what their tourism is like. I thought, in Thailand after this season.
Right. One of the things that's really interesting to me is that there are different stories each season, but there's at least one character, that transfers from the first season to the second season to the third season. And I feel like if I'd been through that situation twice, I might not go back to another one a third time. What do you think?
Yeah. You think you learn, maybe.
I mean, you start to think, like, is it me? Like, am I, like, just, like, bringing this with me? Am I the bad luck here? Every time I go to a different White Lotus, people get murdered like this, just crazily?
Yeah.
Yeah.
But I don't know that now that, spoiler alert, now that character got a kind of a payday of sorts, I don't know that she'll be back again, right?
Well, Christy and I were talking about that the other day when we were thinking, like, because really the consistent thing season to season is that she's thought about, like, starting her own sort of resort or spa type place and everything. And, with $5 million, does she buy a White Lotus? Does she start, like, is the next season, like, in a White Lotus that she owns or manages or something? Or is it just, does she just ride off into the sunset and, be sort of the victor?
I feel like we're going to see her again.
Spoilers here. People that listen to this have seen it, so we can spoil it all we want to. So, but yeah, that character, she's seen some stuff. And she's been at least in proximity to some really crazy stuff,
But maybe she'll have better security if she does.
Yeah.
Oh my gosh.
Yeah, don't hire that guy that's at the gate in this season.
Oh.
He's a nice guy and everything, but not great for security. I don't know. I was surprised to see he was like promoted to like security of the owner or whatever at the end. Because I don't know. I feel like his performance reviews must not have been very good.
Yeah, and he tried to quit and they didn't let him, right? So
right.
and
It's
then
great.
yeah,
Which is funny too, because he thought he was going to get fired at one point, and then he tries to quit, and they're like, "No, you're too valuable." Well, I guess they didn't know that he'd lost the gun for a whole day or something at one point.
yeah.
Oh my
Like
gosh,
just
that was so close.
walked off, and the gun got taken. That was pretty crazy. So, Amy, if you're doing a White Lotus trip with 3 old friends, like we saw with the actress and her 2 friends in this season of White Lotus, who are you taking and why? And what's the character dynamic between the 3?
Oh, that's a tough one. I know one of them for sure has to be Angela Henderson-Bentley.
Yes.
I still call her Henderson because that was our thing in school. So Robert and Christy, you both know her, and she would just be a lifeline. So she would have to go, for sure. And then I would say probably my friend Beth Flannery, because she's just one of those people that can talk her way out of any situation, I think. And everybody loves her and would be bringing us free drinks. So
there you go.
I would be about that.
Friend at a trip like this.
Yeah. So Angela would kind of keep us straight, and then Beth would get us the free drinks and behind the scenes tours and stuff like that. So I think that would be a good mix.
You know, that the dynamic between these 3 on this show was a little bit like they talk one way to each other, you know, when they were all being friendly and everything, and then they all kind of have the little subversive whisper about each other. But it reminded me of Fred Armisen and Vanessa Bayer on Saturday Night Live when they would go on Weekend Update, and they do the thing where they were like best friends with someone when they were kids, but they're like, "Oh, he's great, he's our best friend, and we love him," and all this stuff. But I will say, we went to his house to help him move, and he wasn't really nice about it. Amy, have you seen him? Yeah. One of my favorite characters on this season, and one of my favorite actors, really, one of my favorite character actors that's just showing up in a lot of stuff these days, is Walton Goggins. You know what I'm talking about? Yeah, yes. He's fantastic. He plays Rick in this season of White Lotus, and he was the character that, to me, I was most intrigued about. He was the one I wanted to know his story. I wanted to know what he was going to do next. He was the most sort of unhinged in a way, but also unpredictable. And just the more you found out about everything, and his character sort of evolved, and of course, met his demise there in the end, unfortunately. But what a fantastic character and what a fantastic actor. I love him in like so many shows. I've been on a bit of a Walton Goggins kick here lately. I've been watching, of course, the Righteous Gemstones. He's so funny in that.
I love that show.
It's so funny. And I love him best in Justified, one of my favorite shows ever, where he plays Boyd Crowder. Just fantastic in that. I just recently binged The Shield, where he played a character on that for 8 seasons or something.
I like him in the Fallout.
Oh yeah,
series.
Yeah. Mm-hmm. That too. One. Yeah. He's the character again in that show. He's the character I'm most interested in learning more about, because he plays a character that really has more history and more story than anyone else on the show, because he's supposedly maybe hundreds of years old or something, because he was there before the fallout, like before this sort of nuclear Holocaust thing happened, and he's just deformed as a result of it, a ghoul, and it seems like he's on a quest to maybe find his wife and daughter, right?
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, that's a great show too. Yeah, that was pretty cool. There's not a lot of other characters on that show that I like at all, though.
No.
They're all pretty awful.
They really are. That's what when you first asked me to be on here, I was like, oh no, I don't like any of these people. I don't know. Yeah, they're not very likable this season.
No, not on Fallout and not on White Lotus season 3. They were all pretty bad. Though Christy and I probably one of the most wholesome characters that on the show. One of the ones that you can't really find a whole lot of fault with her is Chelsea. Walton Goggins' character's girlfriend in it,
Yes.
right? With the teeth.
Yeah.
That's how you identify her. Is the one with the teeth. I'm sure she's used to that, but
like, yeah, that's kind of her thing.
Yeah,
she just seemed kind of sweet, and yeah, you can really figure out at first. You're like, actually, she's really sweet. It's just like blindly loves him, and
she's way too good for him.
Yeah. She gave him a lot of slack, more than she probably should have. She was very considerate, and he wasn't.
No, and that's what was so sad. Is like at the end of their story when it's like you think he's finally making the right choices, and choosing her, and then he falls off the rails.
Yeah,
goes the other way. It's like, oh.
Yeah. Well, who we have to blame for that? Who we have to blame for that terrible, just blood shedding finale. This last 15 minutes. Who would you say is at most fault there? Therapist. I mean, come on. Like,
yeah. I was like, I don't know where you're going with it. Yeah.
He goes to her in crisis, and he's like, I need to talk to you. And she's like, no, I'm going to do this. I'll come find you in an hour. But if she had just been like, okay, this guy's definitely in crisis. I'm going to talk to him. I'm going to tell this other kid to wait. I'm going to take 15 minutes and figure out what this guy's going through. Maybe it wouldn't have happened like that.
That's a good point. And the other thing is, she also left Belinda's son there, like in the ditch.
She did.
Now that you say that, I'm like, she is a little shady.
Yeah. I mean, honestly, she could have prevented that entire thing from happening just by talking to the guy, maybe for 15 minutes. Because the fact that he went and sought help, I'm going to crack here, and she could just talk me down. I mean, you would hope that Chelsea could have done that for him. She did the best she could to kind of keep him on the rails, so to speak. She was trying to be his support and stuff. But the fact that he went and sought help before it happened, to me, that could have prevented all that from happening. And the other thing, of course, too, the resort owner's husband, who we find out, of course, is Goggins, is this character's Rick's father. His mom had to pull that Obi-Wan shit where she's like, "Oh, this man killed your father." Obi-Wan's like, "Darth Vader killed your father." And that's what his mom did to him on her deathbed. She's like, "Yeah, this guy in Thailand, he killed your father." No, he is your father. If her Force Ghost had come back, she'd been like, well, your father was a better person, and then he died, and this other guy, whatever, some Darth Vader bullshit. And then the guy too, he's like goes and talks to him, he's like, your father wasn't all that great, you didn't miss anything. That's what you get. You talk about yourself in the third person like that, stop being so cagey. Just tell the guy.
Yeah, that was sad too. Just kind of the look on his face when that came down. It's like, oh no.
Yeah. Well, so much could have been prevented just from talking. That's the big moral that we have here. Just talk it out. Nobody needs to go and
don't be killing people.
Yeah.
So, what did you think of the family? Ratliffs, is that?
Yeah.
Is that their last name? They were not very likable.
No. I didn't think that they were all going to make it off the island, out of Thailand for sure. I thought there's no way they're all going to get out. So I was shocked that they pulled you wonder if if there were two endings there, and they went with that one, where he comes back, because it certainly seemed like he had died. They did the whole thing where he can't get back up to the surface of the water, the whole imagery thing, the whole metaphor and stuff, and he was dead, man. And this poisonous fruit thing, or the suicide tree, not very effective, I gotta say. The whole family drank a little bit of it, and he drank maybe a lot of it, and nobody died.
No, and this is a terrible thing to say, but I was rooting for them to not
Yeah.
be around. So that's who I thought would not make it out for sure.
Yeah.
So
Yeah. No, I thought they were all going down. There were so many times where the dad was just fantasizing about basically killing his whole family and then killing himself. It was horrible. Like, how do they get out of this? How do they all get out of this? I saw on Instagram, I thought it was funny that people were saying that we were robbed of one more scene where we got to see how Parker Posey, character Victoria, reacted to the news that they were poor.
Yeah, like I think she's a fabulous actress. So
Yes.
I really enjoy her. I didn't like that character very much, but I've seen a lot of memes and things.
Oh yeah.
her the way the way she talks and pronounces things. It's
I saw
hilarious.
early on, I think in this when I started watching, I saw an interview with her where she said that was intentional, that she was trying to be like eminently memeable. Like she wanted like basically everything her character said to be like a meme. And I think she succeeded in that. I think she certainly achieved that, because she's probably one of those memeable celebrities on social media right now. But what we really need is a spinoff of this show that focuses on the Ratliff family. And it's basically like them in a Schitt's Creek like situation where they're suddenly poor and having to figure out how to be poor and everything. I think they'd be different than the Rose family, than the Schitt's Creek family in a lot of ways. But it'd be interesting to see how that would develop over seasons, if they redeem themselves in some ways. If they redefine themselves as the Roses did on Schitt's Creek. I'm not sure if they have it in them. I don't know if they have the depth of character to do that, but I probably also said that about David and Alexis on Schitt's Creek when I started watching it. Moira, of course, Catherine O'Hara, and Parker Posey's Victoria, they could probably get along pretty well.
That would be funny.
Yeah, for sure. Just the traded insults and the accents alone would be worth it.
Oh my gosh.
Yes.
It'd be so funny. I think of that episode of Schitt's Creek where Moira gets drunk when she's trying to film the commercial for the winery. And I think about her in that state and Parker Posey on her lorazepam and them just riffing off each other. Like, how funny that would be. That has to happen. Someone has to do that, at least as a skit before like the Emmys or something. They need to get Parker Posey and Catherine O'Hara together to play those two characters. That would be so funny. Make that happen, somebody, please.
That'd be a great Saturday Night Live skit too. So.
It would be. It would be. Yeah. Oh,
yeah. Somebody get on that.
Soon, please. We really need to see that. So the other thing that's kind of funny is that one of the other characters that's been around for each of these seasons is this Greg character. John Grease, the actor John Grease plays. He seems to be winning a little bit in season 3. Like he faces a little bit of potential threat or risk, I guess, when Belinda shows up on the island and recognizes them. But he comes out kind of rosy on the other side. It seems like maybe a little lighter on the wallet. But what do you think about Greg this season?
Yeah, he's, don't have much love for Greg.
No.
but I think you're right. I mean, he is kind of living the life, right? He has the young girlfriend that's open to whatever. and then he gets himself out of that pickle with Belinda. So it also makes me wonder, how much money did he really get away with if that, $5 million didn't really hit him too hard. He didn't seem too worried about it. So,
well, I guess it was like $500 million or something like that. He bought that big resort, that house there in Thailand. He had more money than he could spend. I thought that Belinda's son did a pretty
did a check on
effective shakedown of him when he said, "What are you going to miss 1% of this all that you made from basically killing your wife?"
Mm-hmm.
That was pretty effective. He would have done well on like in like Wolf of Wall Street or something. He's a closer for sure. Belinda, she kind of like flipped a switch, like they were walking out, and she's like, "Go close this thing." She got harsh and ruthless, and she's like, "You were supposed to close this. Coffee's for closers, whatever, you know."
Mm-hmm.
It's kind of funny because people are talking about this actor that played Greg, John Grease, and about how he was Uncle Rico on Napoleon Dynamite, which is of course hilarious.
Yes.
You know, he was always throwing that football around and stuff. Like he's trying to relive his high school football days. That's a funny connection. But also here with the recent passing of Val Kilmer, I've been watching a lot of old Val Kilmer movies, and John Grease shows up in one of Kilmer's earliest movies, Real Genius. You remember that movie, Amy? Did you ever see that?
I know, I've seen it, and I need to go rewatch that classic because I haven't seen it for a long time.
Yeah, I just rewatched the other day, and well, there's John Grease. He plays a character in that like lives in their closet of their dorm, and he's been there for years. He was like the smart kid in the 70s or something, and he's living in this tunnel system in the walls. And big thing is that he's devised a scheme where he can enter the Frito-Lay sweepstakes millions of times. And he ends up winning like the big haul or whatever. He ends up taking millions of dollars or something off Frito-Lay in a car or something like that.
Yeah, I've got to watch this. That's what I'm going to do this weekend.
You gotta go back and watch that. Yeah.
Yeah.
Yep. Funny to see that because I do that a lot. You guys do that a lot. I know Christy does because we watch it together. But you do this a lot, Amy, where you're watching something and you like you're like, oh, that's so and so from such and such, and you recognize people from the oddest things, and you end up on your phone looking at their IMDb page.
Oh, yeah.
Is that just us, or is that a symptom of being the age that we are?
I don't know, but yeah, it's like you have to watch a movie with your phone anymore. So,
Yeah.
so you can look things up. It's like, what did we do before that, right? Because I don't remember. But yeah, I do that too, where I'll get on a kick and go down the rabbit hole on a certain genre or something. Like start watching all the John Waters movies, or all the whatever. I watch, and just full disclosure on my nerdness, but I love the Lord of the Rings movies, so I watch all 2,000 of them, and
Yeah.
so yeah, you just. You go down that rabbit hole,
I'll have
make
to have
all the
you back
connections.
when we do Lord of the Rings and Scratch Off Cinema. We do, that's a segment we do where I'm watching these movies on this poster I have, like rewatching them and stuff, like some years later. But I'll have to have you back to talk about Lord of the Rings. That'd be fun.
Yes, yeah, I definitely have some commentary.
Yeah. Do you feel like the three friends, the actress and her two friends, do you feel like that ended in a satisfactory way?
Not really for me. It seemed like it was supposed to be this big moment where they were forgiving each other. I think that's how it was supposed to come across, but it was kind of like, I don't think these women really like each other.
Right. Yeah,
so,
they had that big like bonding moment where they sort of admitted to each other sort of some of their own faults and things, and it was like sort of emotional, and they all cried and stuff. And then immediately after that, like gunshots started like going off, like it was everyone for themselves. And then at the end, the other thing that a lot of people are commenting on is just that boat ride. The Ratliffs are kind of dealing with maybe some life-altering news there, but everybody's sort of acting like nothing happened. Just they're all kind of oblivious to it. Their faces they don't look like people that have been through this sort of mass shooting tragedy at the end. I don't feel like they had shell-shocked faces. They were just kind of like serene in a way.
Yeah, everybody's kind of just into themselves, I guess. It's kind of, that's kind of the whole show.
Yeah,
right?
Yeah, I guess so. What do you think season 4 is going to look like when they come out with that? Where do you think they should go?
I don't know a location, but I like Christy's theory about maybe Belinda has her own White Lotus, and not sure where that could be. Christy, what do you think? Where do you think she should go?
I don't know. And I'm almost I'm not sure about that, but I do almost feel like maybe later on she might call or contact and I forget his name now, the man who was going to partner with her.
Yeah.
I wonder if we'll see him again too. If she would trust him enough to. So would it just be? It has to be somewhere exotic, though. It can't just be in the States. That's too boring. It's got to be some other like amazing place.
Yeah. I don't know. I saw somebody said something about like it might be interesting to do it instead of a tropical place like a ski resort or something. That would be a different twist on.
That would be different. Yeah.
Yeah. Like a really high end like ski resort, like winter kind of thing. Could see some really crazy stuff going on there.
Yeah. It's neat to think where they could go. You could go to like Australia or something. Like just go somewhere totally different.
Australia would be good too. That's a good thought.
I don't have any reasoning behind it, but I'm just trying to think of just places I'd like to visit.
Yeah.
It's just so cool. Yeah, it was neat to learn some of the like the Thailand culture and stuff, and yeah, it'd be cool to see where they go next.
They could do something like in Dubai, like something like that, some Middle East or some other region of the world that we haven't been in yet.
Yeah, that's a good idea.
Mm-hmm. Well, we'll have to see where they go next. Any final thoughts on the White Lotus season 3?
I'm ready for season 4.
Yeah.
It's funny. It's like a guilty pleasure. Like, I don't know. You get so addicted to it. But yeah, the characters, it's hard to have like a favorite one. But I don't know. It's interesting. It's just so crazy to see what they're going to do next.
Well, we were talking earlier about the Righteous Gemstones.
Oh my goodness, yeah.
I had never seen any of those episodes until like the past week or two, and I have been watching it like it was my job because it's so funny. It is so funny.
What season are you on? If you,
I'm all the way caught up. I'm to the newest one. So
yeah. That was a show for me. I watched the first episode, I think, and I was like, because I'm a big fan of Danny McBride and his humor anyway. Yes. I think I watched the first episode and it didn't quite land with me. I was like, I'm not sure if I like any of these people. And I took a break from it. And then I was talking to somebody about it and they kind of told me that Walton Goggins shows up. And I was just like, immediately I have to give this show another chance because I was on a Walton Goggins kick, like I said. And so I jumped back in it. And man, as soon as you get a couple episodes into the season 1 and it really does hook you. It's just the craziest like stuff going on, and Goggins plays Uncle Baby Billy. Uncle Baby Billy. Oh my God, he's so funny.
And you see a lot of Baby Billy this season.
You sure do. More than you want to see, and of course he has a body double for that. Like he has an old man body double for that. But yeah. See a lot more of Uncle Baby Billy than you ever want to, for sure. Oh my gosh, Danny McBride is so funny in that. The whole cast is so funny in that. John Goodman's great in it. Adam Devine is great in it. That's a really funny show. And then did you ever watch Danny McBride and Walton Goggins in Vice Principals?
No, but that just popped up on my viewing suggestions, so now I have to check that out now for sure. That's
funny too. Yeah, you'll like that one as well. Yeah, I watched that one, I think, before I watched Righteous Gemstones. I watched it all the way through to the end, and that's a pretty good one. Yeah. If you like Gemstones, you'll like Vice Principals for sure. Walton Goggins seems to be up for just anything. He's a yes and kind of guy. He just rolls with it. He's done so much. He's such a multi-layered person and actor. Well, Amy, thanks so much for coming on the show and talking to us about White Lotus. We've had to vent and download about it and stuff, and it's been great to catch up with you and to talk with you. And definitely, we'll have to have you come back on the show to talk some more about live music and some more about the TV shows and the movies you're watching. But it's been great. Thanks so much.
Yeah, I look forward to talking to you again soon.
Yeah, thanks for having me. It's been a real pleasure to catch up with both of you and to just talk about some fun stuff. So thank you.
Next up, another mutual friend, Angela Henderson-Bentley, joins me to shout from her soapbox about the good television that's still being made by the big three broadcast networks. That includes the Kathy-Bates-starring Matlock reboot that's not a reboot, and NBC's Found, which features Saved by the Bell's Mark Paul Gosselaar in a rare bad guy role, and a twist that unfortunately was spoiled in the show's marketing. We also get wistful about the TV shows of our youth.
I've always been, again, I'm the weird kid, probably still weird now. I've always been a weirdo. It's like, I don't run to the, everybody's like, oh, you have to watch the White Lotus. And I'm like, do I? I'll get around to it. I always like, I would, I always like to, watch the things that, maybe nobody else. I think I honestly have like I still have this like strange loyalty to broadcast, you
Yeah.
know? So, with me, it's like, oh man, did you catch that cliffhanger on Matlock? And everybody's like, what?
You're talking about the new Matlock. You're talking about Kathy Bates
Oh,
Matlock?
yes.
Yeah.
Oh, yes.
Yeah.
Yeah,
We've
that's,
watched that. We've watched
okay.
that. Christy and I
Okay.
watched the new Matlock. It's fun. I think it's got I think it did it right. I think it took a twist on that property, that IP that nobody was expecting. And it's unique. It ends up being kind of a week to week court procedural drama, but it's got this underlying story, and I think it's pretty well done.
I'm generally against, you talk about the content and the content people are putting out. And so you're seeing more and more and more reboots. And I'm generally opposed to reboots because it's like, why can't you come up with original ideas?
Yeah.
And, and like in the, and Matlock's a great example is, I was completely opposed. I'm like, because I admitted I watched it back in the day. I'm a big, Andy Griffith fan and I'm like, really, this is the show you're going to reboot. And so I was like, no, and I had no intention of watching it. And then CBS did a very smart thing. And, when you talk about, there's more content out there. And so more people, you've got to do more creative things. And CBS did this really amazing thing is that when they started showing the promos for Matlock, you saw Kathy Bates doing the Southern genteel, aw shucks, whatever that you would expect from a Matlock reboot.
Yep.
And then there was this one commercial where she walks into an elevator and the elevator doors shut.
Yep.
And you hear Britney Spears singing, "I'm Not That Innocent." And they kept showing that commercial. And I thought, that doesn't make sense. What do you mean I'm not that innocent? This is Matlock. And that was CBS's indication of, you know what? This isn't going to be the Matlock that you grew up with. And I give them huge kudos for putting out that signal and also for not giving away the twist. Because too many people, do that. And or did they? And I missed it.
Angela, you missed it. That's what I thought you were going for. Is there was a commercial, and the reason why I watched it is because there was a commercial that came out, and it was Kathy Bates basically introducing herself as Maddie Matlock and saying, like the TV show. And so then I'm like, wait a minute, this exists in a universe where Matlock was a TV show, so she's not Matlock. She's not the Matlock.
Oh,
She's got she was saying it like it was like, people give me, people have kind of teased me about it, but I'm a lawyer, a Southern lawyer, and my name is Matlock. And so people tease me about it because it's an old TV show. And of course I watched it and everything, and everybody has to make a reference about it. So it's a world where Matlock existed as a television show.
True. But, I still give, and you're right about that, but I still give CBS credit for not revealing the big twist.
Right.
And
the thread through it all.
Yeah, so there's
the reason
like a
why she's
slight
doing
twist.
this.
Yeah, to give you an idea of what, and for anybody who's listening that I strongly encourage you to go back and watch it. So I won't give that away. But there's too many, again, we talk about content and so forth. And so, these networks, they want people to watch. And so too many times, so for perfect example, NBC found, if anybody watches that, Mark Paul Gosselaar, who
Mm-hmm.
for a very long time was the only TV person I interviewed that actually got me tongue tied. Because I'm such a huge fan of his. He was actually one of my very first one-on-one interviews for my
Oh,
blog.
cool.
Super guy, super individual. Anyway, so I'd watch him read the phone book in front of a camera, and so I had sort of figured out, because I was still writing my column when that show was about to come out. And I had seen the pictures from NBC, and I had sort of figured out, you know what, I think he's the bad guy in this. But I didn't. It was like, okay, he's the bad guy.
You're talking about
And
the show Found, right?
yes.
Yeah.
And so then all of a sudden, right before it premieres, NBC shows this commercial that gives away the twist. And it's out there, so I think, spoiler alert for anybody, but in that first season, you find out that he kidnapped this woman as a child, and now she works to help find people.
Right.
And the twist is she has him chained in her basement.
Right.
And
Right.
NBC revealed that before the show premiered. And I was like, it's one thing to tell people he's the bad guy, but to tell
Yeah.
the whole premise, and it was just like, but I get it. It's that when you have so much content and you have so many new shows, you have to do things that stand out. And they thought, okay, this is the thing that stands out, so that people don't think it's just another procedural. It's just another, let's find missing people, whatever. And so they gave it away. And so that's why I applaud CBS for not giving it away. But what made me actually watch that show is I saw online people were talking about the big twist, and I'm like, I got to watch this before somebody spoils it for me.
Yeah. Yeah.
And and so I did. And it is as you said, you do it right, and you turn that show on its ear. And I didn't watch every episode during the season, but I watched enough to know what was going on, and read recaps and so forth. But I watched those last 3 episodes, and that is some pretty powerful stuff. And it's going to take people like Kathy Bates, as you said, great actors and doing things, for somebody, an Academy Award winner like Kathy Bates, to do a broadcast network show. Those are the things that are going to make the broadcast networks stand out, because come the Emmy nominations will get announced in July, and you're going to see streaming,
Right.
but you'll see Kathy Bates.
Yeah.
And so people like that, they'll help call attention, and so there's a real spin here. You remember is that you know back in the day, it was like, okay, only HBO can do super quality shows. You had The Sopranos and Sex and the City and those things. Broadcast doesn't matter. And then there was sort of a turn, and broadcast had 24 and Lost, and it was like, oh, okay, this is the golden age of broadcast. And
Right.
I feel like we flipped back, that now, it's streaming, and that's where people are doing. And I get it, because with streaming, boundaries can be pushed a little bit, and actors can really do more, and they can say words you can't say on broadcast TV, and
Yeah.
and do things that you can't do on broadcast TV. And so that really opens the somebody like Jean Smart, who is has been phenomenal on broadcast television for years. She's done phenomenal things. Now she's on Hacks, and she's got like a whole closet full of Emmys, because
Yeah.
she's been able to expand and do and do more things that you can't do on broadcast. And unfortunately, that hinders a little bit when it comes to critical acclaim, and so you have super, super talented people on shows like, Law and Order and Law and Order SVU and so forth that really deserve attention and acclaim, but don't get it because of that, that that's broadcast. That's formulaic. Streaming. Streaming is where it's at. I just got on a soapbox there, didn't I? Wow, I
No.
really am. I really am the broadcast network champion. And again, man, does that tell my age?
That's all right. Soapboxes are all what we're all about here. Everybody gets one. We give you one
Says,
at the door as you're coming in. We say, "Here's your soapbox. Don't be afraid to
says
stand
the,
on it."
says the person who watches a daytime drama on streaming. So
right. No, broadcast isn't dead. They got some stuff going on, and they're pushing the boundaries a little bit in their way too. I don't know. I'm a little shocked sometimes when I'm watching some of these network shows, even just at the language they're able to use now that they weren't able to use maybe even 5 years ago, and just the amount of sort of graphic violence that we're seeing in some of these shows, these crime shows and things like that. They're pushing some boundaries too, wouldn't you say?
I would agree. And again, it goes back to, what are the things that are going to make you, what are the things that are going to make you stand out amongst the, you got to compete,
Yep.
and again, we're telling our age, but there may be some people listening who don't realize that, at one time in life, there were only 3 TV stations that you watched, and that was it.
Yeah. Yep.
And if you were lucky, you had a PBS station, and then you had 4.
Yeah.
And it's like, I still get cracked up, and I know you do too, is that, when Disney Plus, and they were doing, when they came out with The Mandalorian and things like that, they were making you wait week to week instead of releasing all the episodes
Yep.
at once. And, you had young people complaining, oh, I can't believe I have to wait a whole week before another episode. And I'm like, really?
I know. I talked about that too, how people are just spoiled today. They don't know what we had to endure, what we had to go through, I've said before, like when I was a kid, I blame TV for a lot of things that I missed as a kid, though the truth is I probably didn't want to do it in the first place. But when I was a kid, I tell the story all the time that the reason why I didn't stick with Boy Scouts, I was a Boy Scout for like a day. And the reason why I didn't go back is because Alf was on Monday nights, and that was when the Boy Scouts met. And I was like, I got to watch Alf. Alf was like different, it was like, there's like alien, like a puppet alien on the show. And it was like sci-fi and, but, I don't know, I've gone back to Alf later on. And, it's got its charm, but I'm like, I don't know that it was all that great, honestly. And I hate that I'm saying that, but because I was hooked on Alf as a kid.
It's funny. When I was a kid, and this will make some eyes bug out. I had an 8:00 bedtime. My mom was very, very strict about that. Now I had to be in bed at 8:00, except on Tuesday nights, I got to stay up and watch the A-Team. Now,
yes,
there are probably people thinking, okay, that show was violent. Your mom let you stay up and watch it. Listen, that don't judge my mom. But she, in all honesty, it was, let's be honest. You talk about, creative juices and so forth. I owe so much of that to my mom, and the fact that, she understood that, that show meant a lot to me. And, and watching that show. And so she made that exception, on Tuesday nights. And here recently there was they marathon the A-Team on, I think it's Sundance on like Mondays. And, I watched a bunch of them and I thought, man, this show's just not going to stand up. Nope. Totally did. And I was like, now granted, the violence is silly and the storylines don't make sense.
Yeah.
And it's like, okay, where did they get all of those tools? There's no way all that stuff fit in that van. How did they make those tanks out of,
Oh man.
it's like MacGyver. They'd make tanks out of paper
Yeah.
clips, and it's like, what are you doing? And no, it wasn't realistic, but
Plausibility
it was
wasn't
fun.
something they cared a lot about back then.
No, but it was fun. It was fun. You didn't, not everything has to, I saw, Viola Davis said the other day, not everything has to win an Oscar.
Yep.
And she's absolutely right. That show was fun.
Right.
It was fun when BA started beating people up, and when Hannibal would say, "I love it when a plan comes together," and he'd chomp on his cigar, and and Faith would flirt with the ladies and all of that. That was fun. And
Right.
it was so cool to sit there and watch that and be like, okay, so I don't feel like all those hours I wasted and all that sleep I didn't get
Yep.
was for nothing.
And they had a little bit of a budget. They could do action on a small screen back then, a little bit with A-Team. They could like make at least one thing explode every episode. But it's just compared to what we have now on television.
Yeah.
It's night and day. But I watched the A-Team growing up. Like I said, we didn't know any different. Like what we watched was like, that was great. Alf, I thought was great. But comparatively to what we can do on television today with effects and with the money to put into it, like I was talking to a friend of mine, and TV used to be like, and in some cases it still is. And that's okay. Drama kind of stems from everyday life, but TV used to be like a guy worked at the post office, and he would come home and like argue with his wife, and in a jokingly way, and like that was like what we watched on television. Like that was the whole plot, basically, was a guy worked at the post office and then came home, and there was like family drama.
Yeah.
And that was it. Like, okay, no other story really needed. Like there's no like through line or like plot line or anything like that. It was just regular people on television.
Yeah.
And there's still a lot of that, but the writing and the stories that are being told are so much more complex. Like you said with Matlock, like it's not just your typical week to week legal procedural. Like there's this other layer to it that makes it worthwhile. Finally, co-host Joey Bones Carbone and I rant about Game of Thrones, rave about the Righteous Gemstones, and generally discuss our shared need for catharsis and our reluctance to say goodbye to the stories and characters that we've become so very attached to.
I've been going back and rewatched Game of Thrones.
Okay.
It's been a while since I've done that. The Righteous Gemstones, because I love.
Let me ask you about GOT first, real quick, before we move on, because I do want to talk to you about Gemstones. But let me ask you about GOT. Like, so did you hate the ending?
It wasn't what I wanted, but did I hate it? I don't know. I felt like I hated it quite like other people felt they hated it. I'm gonna say that you're right about that, because if you hated it as much as I hated it, or other people that I talked to hated it, then you would have never rewatched the series, because I don't think I could do that to myself again. And that's a shame, because there's so many parts of that series that I just absolutely, loved and were masterful. And I'd love to go back and watch it again, but I can't, because I just felt so robbed in the end of it. And I haven't been able to watch House of Dragons either because of it. And I know that's like a bitter, like old man sort of thing to do and say, but I was a fan of George R.R. Martin's work, his writing. I thought the series looked fantastic. I had really become invested in many of the characters. I had my favorites and I had my least favorites, and it was one of those shows. It didn't start that way for me, I'll be honest, because I started watching the first season. I had a friend that was really pushing me to watch it, and it was live. It was like in the middle of season 3 maybe, or something like that. So I had tried watching it and stopped and given up on it, and I had a friend who just kept saying like, no, go back, watch it.
And I think it was probably, it must have been late season 1 that I was like, okay, I'm on board. You know, it took a little while for me, but once I was on board, I was like, yeah, okay. You know, and then I was like, put out another one, you know, like the week-to-week release. It was like, just drop them all. Like, you know, you get spoiled as like as a viewer, as a you know, consumer of this like content. Like you're spoiled like anymore, because like you're just like, you can't stand like, oh, what? I have to wait a week to watch the next episode? What? You're gonna take a 3-month break? Like, no, drop everything immediately. Like, feed me this stuff that I need. You know, I'll die without it. And it's like, I would like that. Like week to week. Oh man, when's it coming out again? You know, like I was invested in the show, and then I felt robbed. And you know, and I'm not one of those people. Like, I think it's fine if people liked it, if that's what people wanted from it. I'm not saying that what they did was necessarily the wrong thing to do, but it robbed me of what my expectation of the end was. You know, I wasn't thinking about what anybody else's expectation of the end was. It just wasn't what I wanted. And you know, that's fine. Other people can love it. I'm not saying it's terrible or trash or anything like that. I'm sure it satisfied people who wanted that ending. And there are people like that. But for me, it just, you know, I felt we were simpatico. I thought that, you know, that the story, I had a real sense of where the story was going. I thought that the writers were kind of like, you know, on the same page as me, unintended. You know, that we like, I felt connected. I was like, yes, this is going where I want it to go. I know where it's going to go. I know how it's going to end. I know what's going to happen. And then it didn't do it. And I was like, no, I'm robbed. I thought we agreed on this, writers. I thought we had a contract here. You know, it felt like we had shaken hands and signed in blood and stuff. Like we were on the same page. We were going the same direction, and then you took like a sharp right, and you know, it just hurt.
It does speak to the show that they were able to draw you in so much to be able to hurt you that way.
Yeah, it absolutely does.
You know, I guess I found that the last season, especially, it just felt it went the wrong way very quickly.
Yeah,
they could have added it and slowly built that, but I understand they were trying to wrap everything up.
It felt like it too. That's the problem. It felt like it. Like they were trying to wrap it up.
Holes and stuff that just they're trying to wrap everything up, and it felt rushed.
It did.
On top of that, the darkness. Oh my God! Please, can we get it remastered with some lightning technology? Because it's still no better. You don't know what's going on half the time.
That's right. But you know why they do that? Because they want us to buy more and more expensive and better and bigger televisions. Right. It's all a big con. You know, that's what they want us to buy. You know, like the 4K Ultra HD, you know, and then you watch it on that, and it looks spectacular until they decide to darken it again to get you to buy another TV. We got it. We know what's going on out there. You can't fool us. You know about this whole TV like salesman like racket you got going on. We got it. So I don't know. I just didn't like you know, there were a lot of things. I wanted to love that scene where Arya like goes through the air and you know, and like kills the Night King, the White Walker King.
Yep.
I wanted to love that scene so much. Like I was like, I literally like got up on the edge of my seat. And I was like, this is gonna be so fucking cool. And it's like, and then it happened. It was like so fast and so easy. And I was like, wait, it's over.
It's over.
Like,
yep.
Like, why was that so easy? And like, I was like, it looked cool, but like, why was it so easy?
Yeah, I mean, it was. I guess. You know, there's those moments that the fans want. You can milk those moments and give us a little more in those moments. I felt Deadpool and Wolverine did that pretty well. by the way. I really enjoyed that. But if you can milk those moments and give us just a little bit more of that, we'll look past some of the other things. But
right. You know what? I always say I don't mind fan service because I'm a fan and I want you to service me. Like, give me what I want. Like, people have a problem with like fan service. A lot of movies, a lot of Star Wars and stuff gets crapped on for like fan service, and some of the Marvel stuff, fan service, like, oh, you just put that in there because the fans are going to love it. Well, yeah,
right.
Like I'm cool with that. Like, I'm a fan, I want to love it, so put the stuff in there that I think is cool. I don't have a problem with fan service. Service me.
Right.
That sounds bad, but yeah, but no, put more of that stuff in there. Give us more. Give us the meat that we want. We're like ravenous dogs, and we want something cool and creative on the screen. You can do so much with it. You have so much money, and you have so many like artists working for you, and you have all this technology and everything, and you could do anything. It was just like, just make it cooler for us, like that's all we're asking. Yep. So Game of Thrones. Okay, you weren't as unhappy with the ending as I was because you did a rewatch. I respect that. That's fine. And then you were also mentioning Gemstones, Righteous Gemstones.
Yeah, I need to laugh, and there's times where I just want to shut my mind off and watch something absolutely ridiculous, and they do that well.
I love the Righteous Gemstones, and I didn't think I would. This is another one where like I watched the first episode and I was kind of like meh about it,
right?
And I put it aside for a while, and then I got into. So here's the thing about Gemstones. This is why I got into Gemstones. It's because of Walton Goggins.
Baby Billy.
Uncle Baby Billy. He's why I went back to it, because I'm a huge Walton Goggins fan. I loved him in Justified. I've watched Justified 3 times all the way through.
I love Justified. That was amazing.
One of my so fantastic. The writing on that is incredible. So it's based on the writing of Elmore Leonard, but he passed while they were still making series and stuff. And so I know we consulted on writing, but like, I thought the writing was better. I thought the writing on that show was better than the books, and that's super rare. And it's just so well written. It's so sharp. And Timothy Oliphant as Raylan Givens and Walton Goggins as Boyd Crowder in that show are like the ultimate, like, they're like Batman and the Joker. Like there can't be one without the other. Like that's what they are. They're that. That dynamic duo, whether they're at odds with each other or sometimes like, collaborating with each other, like friends become enemies kind of thing. And that dynamic on that show was so incredible that I have had to watch like everything with Walton Goggins in it since then. And so I had just gotten Max for a month or something like that. And I was catching up on stuff that I hadn't seen. And I saw that Walton Goggins was in a comedy with Danny McBride, Danny McBride, also comedic genius, incredible. Right. Most of everything that he does is just so funny. I don't know. He hits my funny bone,
Yeah.
better than others for sure. He's in the zone where he knows what I think is funny, and he like writes that,
Right.
He like writes to my level of maturity, I think, or immaturity.
Yep.
And he's just really funny. And so I saw that he was in a series on Max with Walton Goggins called Vice Principals. Mm-hmm. And so I watched Vice Principals, and just died laughing at it. And I thought it was the other thing that got me is that like the first episode had Bill Murray in it.
Bill Murray, yeah.
Oh my God. So I watched Vice Principals, and then I'm talking to somebody about it later. I'm like, I just finished Vice Principals, and that was just so fun. And they're like, are you watching Gemstones? And I was like, no. And they're like, Goggins is on Gemstones. And I'm like, what?
Right.
So I'm like, Danny McBride and Walton Goggins did another thing together, and I'm not watching it. So I went back to Gemstones, and it's just like, I realized very quickly that I'd given up on it way too soon. And see episode 2, 3, or whatever, like I was like hooked and just burning through it like to catch up, and then watching it as it came out. So yeah, that's why Max got the money from me, because of that. But Gemstones is so fun, and I thought when you mentioned that you were watching that, you were a fan of it. It didn't surprise me at all. But I thought I got to talk to Joey about this. One, because you grew up in a church going family. Your father was a church organist. Your mother taught at a Catholic school where our kids met, and so you could be in a position where you're like, this is offensive to me because my family was in the church, and and you could be in that position. That would be somewhat rational. It's not really like any church that you went to or I went to, because it's evangelical. It's TV preachers and stuff like that, and I think in a sense, like even Christians and Catholics, I think they're okay with making fun of the TV preachers. Right. Because they're like, that's not what we do, even though it is a little bit like what they do. But you give yourself permission to make fun of the TV preachers, at least, like the Jim Bakkers of the world and stuff like that. But I wanted to get your perspective. Like, I didn't really grow up in a church-going family. I later went to a youth group at a local church just for something to do in the evenings, and met one of my longtime friends there, and through that, like, would go to church a little bit. Yeah. And then I married, Catholic, and our kids went to Catholic school, and so I went to the church events and stuff, and so I was in church at Easter and Christmas for a while there and stuff. But I wouldn't say I grew up like really attached to religion or anything like that. But I think that you had a bit more of a connection to it. So I kind of wanted to hear your perspective on Gemstones coming from that.
So much of it, so many of the things in there pull from things I remember as a child growing up. Like you said, the Jim Bakkers. Yeah. I remember in junior high, my one friend Mike asked me if I wanted to go see the Power Team, and it was the big lifter guys, the muscle men from the one season. So it really... there was some nostalgia there because there was some truth to all the wackiness of it. Yeah. And it's just a great thing, to escape into. I never really took any offense to it. Now my mom, she'd probably have a different thing to say, but it was definitely aimed at like a Gen X crowd for sure, or later. And it's a good spoof, and if you can't laugh at anything, what are you really doing? I mean, there are some lines, but like you just got to be able to laugh, or you're going to go nuts.
Yeah, it's very funny. It's very over the top. It's a very dysfunctional family of evangelicals. The father and the mother, like a Jim Bakker, Tammy Faye Bakker kind of personality, and then the kids wanting to continue on, and do their own thing. They're all very, in their own ways, inept in some of those faculties, but it just ends up just a huge comedy of errors for the most part. But the thing about it though, with any Danny McBride project, is that it's not without heart, right. Like at the base of it, like it's not really, like, they say mean things to each other, they're siblings, and they're kind of terrible and like bully each other and stuff, but like you can tell that it comes from a place of love still, right? Like they're not like mean, and they don't really want each other to get hurt or anything like that, and they just cuss each other out and stuff like this, and like say the worst things to each other. But you can tell that they love each other because they are like still together and they're working together. Yeah. And they want the same things and stuff. So as much as they go into it's a sibling rivalry, but there's heart and love at the base of it. And I think that's what that means the world to me in a comedy anymore.
Absolutely. That was so many times, like, you talk about what you eat as far as what you put in your body. Like,
Yeah.
I want something that's going to have some sense of heart, some goodness to it. Like,
Right.
you know, there are some just trash out there that you could watch. I don't laugh. I want to have a good time. Put a little something in there, you know,
Yeah.
not mean-hearted.
Yeah.
But,
I mean,
I think one thing about that show, too, is that really connected with me is I know more families like that than your Huxtables and,
Yeah.
you know, all of those. So
Yeah.
it was, you know, it's kind of home, you know.
Yeah. Yeah.
And to be able to make fun of the dysfunction in family, because every family has it, you
Right.
know,
Right.
and see them working through it together. That's what's important, you know.
For sure. Yeah, man. But yeah, I don't think I didn't get that connection because it's there and it takes a little while for you to recognize it, but it's underneath all of there. And so you get that, like, and you just have to watch a few episodes and you'll get it. You'll get on board with it. If you're like me, you watch the first one and you're like, these people are kind of silly and they're kind of mean. And like, I'm not sure if I can go the whole way with them and stuff and take a break from it and everything. I'm telling you, like, give it a little time and it'll win your heart over. And you'll realize that as mean as they are, as nasty as some of the things they say are, they would never want any harm to come to anyone, that it's in their family or, that like they give some characters that, I'm thinking about BJ, poor BJ takes a lot of abuse, and
he does.
Kelvin, and Judy, like they all do in a sense, like, oh my gosh, like they go through some stuff, and and they're called every name in the book, and names you would never have invented in your own head. The writers for that show are coming up with some stuff, the insults that they come up with. You gotta think some of the people in the cast too are so funny. So I'm guessing that some of them are coming up with some of this stuff too on the spot. Like maybe they're just like saying like just go and just like letting the camera roll and just like say everyone you can think of, like whatever randomly pops into your head, and they're just saying all this stuff. It's incredible. It's so funny. They play off each other so well. The chemistry between them is so incredible. I mean, John Goodman is great in it. Oh man, I don't know. And there are seasons too where like the arc is just really well thought out. Like where it starts with something and you're wondering where it's going to go, and then in the end it just ties up so nicely in a bow, and it's like, oh man, they knew they were going here this whole season. I didn't. Right. And it's just like it's like Danny McBride. I mean, it's just. He takes you on a trip, a trip with emotions and everything. You don't know what to expect, and he's weaving this like mastery, this masterful storytelling and stuff, and by the end you're just like, man, why did I ever doubt this guy? Like he knew this was going to happen. He had this in his head the whole time, and like it's just fantastic. I mean, some of the seasons like I didn't even think they even really needed this one because I thought the last one ended so perfectly.
It did, yeah.
But I'm glad they made more. I love it that they made more. I think we're maybe 2/3 of the way through. Like I think I'm caught up, but there might be one that I haven't seen from this latest season. But,
I think I'm in like episode 3 or 4. I went back to start rewatching them again.
Okay. So here, I won't spoil it for you or anything like that, but like or I'll try not to anyway. You know me, I sometimes let it
all right,
but I'll try not to. But I'm at the point in the season where I'm doing what I just said, where I'm like, okay, is there something deeper here, or is it just this thing? I'm like, I'm like, is it gonna end as satisfyingly as the last one did? Is it gonna have that arc? Is it gonna be a deeper thing? And I'm hoping. I can't wait for it to tie back. I know you've seen the first episode, so I can't wait for it to tie back to that flashback with
Bradley Cooper.
Bradley Cooper as the first gemstone to go into the church. Gosh, I can't wait for it to tie back to that, because I think that's where it's going to go. I think that's
right.
in that golden Bible of his.
Yep.
And I'm like, I can't wait for that to like pop up in the story somewhere, because I know that's where it's going. But I'm still I still find myself watching these episodes and going, is it really just about John Goodman kind of getting laid? Is it really about that?
Right.
And I'm like, so far,
you know what, though, speaking on that, like, as far as it does deal with a lot of wackiness.
Yeah.
It deals with a lot of stuff that you're going to deal with as a family as well.
Yeah.
And having, a father that's going to go back out and dating. My dad passed away, but I know if my mom went back out and started having some dates, I'd probably feel a certain kind of way about it.
Right.
And should I?
Yeah.
It brings up that conversation and that. And one of the things that makes me laugh more than anything is how many times grown-ass people say daddy on that show.
Yeah.
It's a lot.
Yeah, that's a Southern thing, I guess. But yeah, it's almost like, I don't know if you watch White Lotus, but it's like Parker Posey, like in it's a vernacular, Southern vernacular and stuff. But it is affected very well on that show. Like, they use it smartly, like it's punctuation and this like the whine, and they're just sort of like the tone and the pitch of their voice when they do it. It's just like, you're right. It's just, I don't know, even just something as simple as that, as the word, and daddy's kind of sometimes a gross word. It can be, in some sense, but like the way they use it, it's just comedy gold.
Right. And I've definitely enjoyed in rewatching it, going back and paying attention more to like BJ and Keith and some of the lesser screen time characters, because they're just as good.
Oh, yeah, they are.
Just as good.
Yeah.
Oh, my gosh.
It's fantastic cast, all the way top to bottom. That cast in that is just fantastic. I mean, even just like some of the characters, you don't know their names, I don't even remember. I'm never going to remember some of the names of the guys, and Jesse's sort of, his posse or whatever, his little church posse. You're never going to know their names, but like they do it well, though.
Right.
The scenes that they're in, like they are not like they're playing that part just the way they're supposed to play it. So yeah, I don't know. It's just it's a great show. I can't wait to see where it goes. I just hope that, there I go again. Doubtful, whatever. Thinking, maybe Danny McBride doesn't know what he's doing, but guys never let me down yet.
Right.
I gotta have faith in Danny McBride. I think he knows what he's doing, man.
Well, I tell you, I've had some hesitation in watching final episodes of things before.
Yeah.
One of them was the last one of the Star Wars trilogies that came out. I did not go see that in the theater, and every single one of those I had been opening day for.
Yeah.
All the others, I would not go see that. And finally, Dominic was like, "You gotta go see it, Dad." And I rented it and watched it. But there are, with things that I hold dear, I'm not always ready to say goodbye to them.
That's a big part. Mm-hmm.
And then not knowing in which way I'm going to have to say goodbye.
Yes. Oh man.
So it's you really do get invested in these characters, these stories,
yes,
and become your worlds.
That's exactly it, Joey. I see, and that's why we're like so like connected in our brain. Like that's exactly how I feel. And I watch that when I get invested in something, and like I just Yellowstone finished its run, its 5-season run. It split this season 5 happened around COVID. They ended up splitting that season 5 into 2. There's 2 years between the first part of the season 5 and the second part of season 5, and so I got into the show. I really like a modern western. I'm just I could go crazy for a modern western, and in a sense, Star Wars is maybe the most modern western there is.
Right.
But I love a modern western, and so I got into Yellowstone a lot. And the characters in there, I got super invested in them and everything, and I got to the second half of that season 5, and I watched the first episode of the second half of season 5. Make that make sense. but I watched that first episode and I was like, oh, I had a visceral reaction to it. And my wife caught it and she was like, would you watch this over with me? Like, she didn't know what had happened, but she'd seen the reaction I had, and she'd seen, she'd walked in and out of the room and stuff before, and caught little glimpses of things and stuff. And she was like, I just watched, there's 6 episodes maybe of season 5 out, and it's done. And I watched the first of them, and she goes, would you ever rewatch this with me? And I was like, yes, I will do that. Part of it was like, okay, then I can really kind of delay the end for myself. Right. I don't know if I'm ready for this last 5 episodes. And so maybe this will help me prepare better, emotionally, mentally, and I love getting my wife to enjoy something like that, just she wasn't sure about it. She's not into the Western and stuff as much as me. She's super busy, and we gotta pick our TV that we watch together very carefully and thoughtfully. Right. We only get maybe an hour an evening to watch a TV show together, so it's got to be good. Mm-hmm. And so I'm thinking in my head, can I get her into this? Can I get her hooked on it? And I thought about Beth and Rip in that show, and I said, yep, I can get her hooked on it. So yeah, let's start it over. And so for the past several weeks or whatever, 1 episode at a time. Like I said, we get 1 hour of TV maybe at night, and we were watching 1 episode of Yellowstone. We went all the way through, the first 4 seasons and the first half of season 5, and we had just gotten to this we caught up to where I'd finished that first episode of season 5. We caught up there, I'd say 4 or 5 days ago, and we had 4 or 5 episodes left. 5 episodes left, I think, at that point. And we just finished it the other day. Okay. And when we were going to put it on, and it was really late, it was midnight or something like that. And I looked there and I said, we could watch it, or we could wait and watch it tomorrow. Cause I was calculating, we're both tired. I don't want to fall asleep in the middle of this last episode.
Right.
And that's not even been something that I've ever had to worry about until probably the last last 2 years or something like that. And now I'm
I get it.
I'd always given my wife grief about that, about falling asleep on stuff. And then I started doing it, like I said, recently in the last couple of years. And now I'm I can't believe myself. I'm what is wrong with you? What is wrong with your body? Why? You never used to do this before. You used to give such crap to people for doing this, and now you're falling asleep watching stuff, And I'm so irate with myself. But I was thinking we might fall asleep, and I don't want to fall asleep during the last episode, and I want to be able to give it my full attention, every detail, and I was also, now that I think about it, because you made the good point. I think I was trying to convince myself to give it another day just because I still wasn't prepared for what was going to happen. I talked to my older sister. She had watched it, and I was deathly worried that she was going to spoil something for me. So I was very strict about it. But I did ask her, I did want to get a sense of how she felt about it. And she said that she didn't really care for it all that much. And so that put the fear of God in me. And I was oh God. Am I going to be able to handle this? I already knew going in, everybody did, that Kevin Costner wasn't going to make it because he publicly said he was stepping away from the show, before the last 5 episodes aired. So he'd said that he didn't want to, he had other projects and he had to step away. He enjoyed his time there, it was a great show and all this stuff. But, he'd just given as much of his life to it as he could. And I think he could have done the last 5 episodes. So I wasn't super satisfied about what they did with that character, and so I was okay, I already don't like where this is going. I already don't like the first episode of season 5, because it's not exactly how I had envisioned the end for this family, and so I was already trepidatious about it. And then my sister said she was kind of on the fence about it, or just didn't really care for it that much. And I'm what could happen? What could happen?
Right.
God, John Dutton's already dead.
I think that's
how bad could it get? And
as fans, we play like almost every scenario in our head that
Yes.
can happen.
Yes.
So, like, by the time they get to it and it lets us down, we're just like, I could have done that better.
Yeah.
It's
Yeah.
like, I get that.
So I was nervous about doing it, but we decided to watch it like after midnight, and it's a longer episode than typical too. And surprise, we did not fall asleep. And
Nice.
And it got to the end, and like I think it probably by the time it got maybe halfway through, like I knew where it was going, and I was like, this is how I envisioned it. I said, actually, like, this is perfect. I know where it's going. And I was like, you know what? I picked this out because they laid the trail for it, some seasons back. And I caught the trail. I picked up on the trail, and I was like, okay, I know what you're doing.
Do that.
And they did it. And they went back and they did the prequels and stuff. And I was like, okay, yep. I get it. I know what you're doing. I know why you're doing the prequels. I know why you're setting it up that way. And I know where this is going. And I'm cool with it. And about halfway through that last episode, I knew that's where they were going, and I was like, "All right, I'm on board. This is good." And I was pretty satisfied with how it ended. I think there were tears, there was heartbreak in the end, but it ended in a hopeful place, in a place of new beginnings, and I was really satisfied with the end of Yellowstone.
That's awesome. It's great when they can wrap it up and give you that satisfaction.
Yeah.
And, you're left feeling complete.
Yeah.
Like, I think that's one of the things Danny McBride said about this being the last season of Righteous Gemstones.
Yeah.
Is that just it's naturally wrapping up. And I think sometimes we can take something too far.
Yeah, I respect it. I respect it when a creator knows that it's time, and he knows that if it's stretched any further, it's going to lose that elasticity. It's gonna snap and break, or it's going to flop around. Like
Right.
I respect that a creator knows when that time is coming, and when they do it that way, and they end it that way, and they don't end it like, oh, we got to wrap this up like GOT, like, oh,
Yep.
we gotta make all these pieces fit together really fast. Like we've been laying them out like at these great distances, all this time, thinking we had all this time, and then we got to mash them all together at the end. When it's done on a creator's terms, on a creator's schedule, when he has a endpoint in mind and he knows he's reaching it, and he knows he can hit that emotional, note at the end, then I respect that.
Absolutely.
Thanks for listening, everybody. We'll have lots more things to talk about really soon, but in the meantime, if you're just finding us, check out our earlier episodes. Also, we'd love it if you would follow us on Instagram, where we're at Every.Thing.After_photo. There you'll find lots of concert photography and reviews, and you'll be able to reach out to tell us what your ETA is. What are the shows, movies, concerts, theater, and books that you want to talk about? Let us know, and we might just invite you onto the podcast to share. Until next time.
I still love with a vengeance the idea that I could be the one to change. And every spell I said to reanimate the dead could somehow all now be neatly tucked away. But I don't mind tonight. The alignment is right. For the moment I feel alright.
Hi, I'm Scott Paris. I'm a singer-songwriter of 20 years going on, and my ETA, my Every.Thing.After, is my new book, A Guitar Called Harry V and the cover band Conundrum. I took a year to write it. It was written in real time in 2024, but it gave me a chance to reflect on everything after 20 years of writing and performing and trying to chase my dream. So it's a perfect thing for the Every.Thing.After show, that I've got a book that talks about what I did after chasing the dragon, chasing the dream, and getting really, really close and being very, very satisfied in a job well done, or at least the attempt to finish the mission. here we are. I'm living my everything after right now.